Katoga mutters the name Heinous under his breath. But when one of his knights comes to check on him, he acts like nothing's wrong and says the assassin got away. After that, the royal tour is cut short, and everyone starts prepping for the prince and princess to head back to the castle. Alusha leaves Hemblitz in charge there, but wants Barl to come with them for extra security. As soon as the carriages set off, Barl asks Alusha what she plans to do now, but honestly, she's not sure. They couldn't interrogate any of the defeated assassins, since they all took their own lives and didn't catch any of the ones who fled. After today's mess, Barl figures tomorrow's tour is definitely cancelled. Salacia and Glenn are taken back to the castle for safety, but they'll need to beef up security around the place to prevent more attacks. Alusha and Gotoga are gonna meet with their superiors to update them. So Alusio tells Barl GS free, and Gotoga says the same to Rose. Now that they've got time, Barl expects Rose to bug him about showing her around town again, but to his surprise, she just leaves. Without a fuss, Barl decides to head home, hoping Mew is already there, but instead, he finds Lucy. He asks what she's doing there, and Lucy explains that after the assassination attempt, she came to talk to him about it. Barl hadn't thought much about it before, but he finds it weird there were no mages in the tour's security. Lucy says the Magic Corps was invited to help, but this time, they had to work behind the scenes. Mui picks up where the conversation's going and doesn't want to get tangled in government secrets, so she ducks out, saying she'll be back in 30. Lucy thanks her for the privacy, then gets back to it explaining that the Magic Corps didn't take an active role because of Esfine's religion. They believe magic is a miracle only for the devout, but here anyone with talent can use it, which could cause a diplomatic mess if magic was used openly. She also thinks the attack was political, and that the assassins were likely from Esfine or Ardavania. Meanwhile, Rose runs into Alusha near the training hall. Alusha surprised to see her since Rose was dismissed, but Rose says she just came to talk to Gotoga. Alusha tells her he's still in a meeting, and it'll take a while. So Rose figures they haven't decided yet whether to cancel tomorrow's tour. Alusha confirms it and says she suggested extra security, but the final call's up to the higher-ups and the royals. Rose remembers tomorrow's tour was supposed to be in the farming district, and Alusha nods but asks why she's asking. Now, Rose says she wanted to get familiar with the area and asks Alusha to tell her more about it since she'd know. Alusha suggests she wait for G, but Rose insists, saying she doesn't want to wait, even inviting Alusha for coffee to chat. Back at Barl's place, he asks Lucy if she's sure the assassins were from She says she got intel from Ebroy and thinks Esfine's caught in a power struggle between the papacy and the royals. Barl's not into political drama, but since he doesn't get it, he asks who's got more pull, the king or the pope. Lucy can barely believe Barl doesn't know, but since he never cared about politics, she explains. In Esfine, the king has more power, but since he follows the church's religion, he can't ignore the pope. In the end, though, the final word is the king's. Today's attack was probably orchestrated by the pope's supporters to gain more influence. Barl doesn't see the point in killing Prince Glennon, other prince would just take his place. But Lucy corrects him. Glenn's brother, Felix, is obsessed with Esfine's religion. If he became heir, he might hand all power to the pope. Meanwhile, in town, Alusha finishes explaining tomorrow's route to Rose and is about to leave when Rose suddenly drops. I want to know what Barl was like when he was your teacher. That makes Alusha sit back down. Rose only trained with Brawl briefly during a trip but was blown away by his swordsmanship. Alusha gets it, she admires his style too. Rose says she trained with him 5 or 6 years ago and asks how Alusha's experience was. Alusha says she was just a kid back then and didn't learn everything. But Barl praised her talent, probably to motivate her. The day she mastered his technique, he said she'd graduated and never came back to the dojo. Rose can tell Alusha really likes him, but he's still as laid back as ever. Suddenly, Rose spots a little boy lost on the street and asks if he's okay. Scared, he says he lost his mom. Alusha suggests taking him to the guards. But Rose thinks that's unnecessary. His clothes are clean, he doesn't look tired, and he hasn't panicked yet. His parents must be nearby. Alusha agrees, and the two decide to search. But first, they need more info. Rose asks the boy his name, and after he says Ritter, she asks if he remembers what his mom was wearing. Ritter thinks for a second and says she had on something red and fluffy with long hair. Alusha impressed by how fast Rose got clues out of the kid. But the truth is, Rose just loves children. Alusha starts scanning the crowd for someone matching the description, but Rose thinks that'll take too long, so she just yells into the crowd, "Ritter's mom, come get your kid." Meanwhile, back at Barlow's place, he finally pieces things together. Now it all makes sense. Every assassin they caught killed themselves immediately, and the only other time he saw people that eager to die was when he fought the bishop's knight. If that incident's anything to go by, the assassins won't stop after one failure. There'll probably be another attack tomorrow. Right then, Mui walks in. so Lucy wraps things up and says goodbye. With nothing else to do, Barl asks Miwi if she wants to start dinner early today. In town, Alusha and Rose finally find Ritter's mom. After a ton of thank yous, she and the boys say their goodbyes. Alucia admites Josie's love for kids, and Rose mentions her parents used to donate to an orphaniso. She spent a lot of time with the children there. Kids are a nation's treasure. Gotta protect them at all costs. Alusha totally agrees. Anyway, it's getting late, so Alusha says she needs to head back to HQ. The two part ways. The next morning, all the knights regroup, and Alusha announces the tour with Glenn and Salacia will continue as planned, despite yesterday's attack. Barl's shocked he's sure the assassins will strike again. But Alusha explains it was Prince Glenn himself who insisted, and both countries already agreed. Canceling over the papists would hurt Glenn's influence as prince, so he has to go through with it, even knowing his life's at risk. The convoy starts moving, but before they leave, Katoga grabs Barl's arm for a quick talk. He reveals one of yesterday's assassins was his old comrade, Vice Commander Hennis, who vanished before Rose took over. An ex-knight of Esfine's vice captain trying to kill Esfine's prince. Messy situation. Katoga asks that if Hennis shows up today, he gets to handle him. Barl asks if he told Alusha yet, and Katoga nods they discussed it in yesterday's meeting. Barl agrees to let him deal with Hennis alone. When Glenn and Salacia reach the farm district, Glenn's amazed by the endless wheat fields. Barl's impressed too, it's his first time seeing something that huge. Karuni mentions it's even prettier on sunny days, but today's overcast. Barl says he's coming back here on his day off. A while later, the convoy stops, and Katoga goes to open the carriage door but asks Glenn if he's sure about stopping here. Glenn replies, Salacia's safety comes first, so even with his life on the line, he'll stick to the plan. He and Salacia step out because they're supposed to inspect the wheat. They can't let it seem like yesterday's attack scared them, gotta keep up appearances. Even if nobody's around to see it. After checking the wheat, Salacia suggests heading back, and Glenn agrees. But out of nowhere, an arrow whizzes past, nearly hitting his head. The assassins are back and there are archers hidden in the fields. The knights start blocking arrows to protect Glenn and Salacia, but it's not just archers, killers too. Barl cracks his knuckles and starts taking them down one by one. The other knights follow suit. But there are way too many assassins, this fight's gonna be rough. Barl pushes forward, cutting down enemies. But when one leaps at him from the fields, the guy suddenly gets 2 arrows to the chest out of nowhere. Barl can't figure why assassins would shoot their own guy, but decides to use the body as a human shield. As he braces for the next wave, the first assassin takes an arrow to the head, but the other 2 don't even flinch. Then it hits him. The archers aren't intentionally hitting their allies. They just have absolutely terrible aim, and nobody cares about friendly fire. Even Barl's struggling under this arrow storm, especially while fighting knife-wielding assassins. Karuni's getting overwhelmed too, and one enemy slips past her, making a beeline for Glenn. Luckily, Hemblitz takes the assassin down before he gets close, but they won't last much longer. Barl shouts for Alusha to get Glenn and Salacia back to the carriage. They'll be easier to protect their hair. Meanwhile, he plans to thin out as many assassins as possible. Minutes later, Barl cuts through the forest. After dropping several enemies, when he runs into Rose, "You're pretty damn strong," she remarks. Barl thanks her. Fighting through all those assassins to get here wasn't easy. But now it's time to end this. Both draw their swords and get ready to throw down. Barl asks if she killed her own allies to get here, but Rose says she didn't even need 2 knocking. Everyone out was easy enough to complete the mission. But with him, it won't be that simple. She asks how long he suspected her, and Barl says he's had his eye on her since she killed that assassin at the theater. With her skills, she could have neutralized him without killing, but she chose to finish him off. Like she wanted to silence him. Plus, Barl noticed several assassins slipping through the area Rose was supposed to guard. She was letting them through on purpose. He asks if Glenn becoming king is really such a big problem to justify all this madness. But Rose thinks she's more than justified. What would you do in my place? She counters with the country sinking deeper every day, and power struggles leaving kids hungry and freezing. Varl doesn't have an answer. He doesn't understand politics, but as her mentor, he can't let her continue down this path. Rose fires back. What's wrong with this? I'm doing it for thousands of people, but Barl's certain the children she wants to protect wouldn't want her hands stained with blood. Seeing she won't convince him, Rose raises her sword to fight. Barl still wants to save her though, and warns. When this is over, they're having a serious talk. Meanwhile, back at the carriage, the group keeps protecting Glenn and Salacia, but things get worse when one of the assassins fighting Hemblitz uses strengthening magic. Alusha shouts for everyone to stay calm and fight hard, but Karuni's worried about Barl being alone. She wants to help him, but everyone's swamped. They'll just have to trust he can handle himself. Unbeknownst to them, in the forest, Barl fights Rose, but only defends. He doesn't want to hurt her. She taunts, "How will you stop me without attacking?" He admits it won't be easy. At one point, Barl notices how she adjusts her footing in the mud and dodges a heavy strike, leaving her wide open. He could have killed her right then. And Rose knows it. She realizes she can't win, but won't back down. If she fails today, the orphanage kids will die. Barl's shocked, and Rose explains the Pope kidnapped them all to force her to carry out the plan. Pretty important detail, but she thinks it changes. Nothing talking won't stop Glenn from needing to die, but Barl's whole demeanor shifts when he hears about the hostages. Rose is surprised. It's the first time she's seen him this furious. Barl says his anger isn't directed at her, but she insists he's got every right to be pissed. The situation's messed up, and as much as Barl wants to avoid it, he decides he has to end things with her here and now, and Rose seems ready to accept it. She lunges, but Barl blocks and sidesteps even with her shield in the way. Rose manages to cut his face, but that shield actually helps Barl by limiting her attack angles. He counters, but with her blocking everything, finding an opening's tough. The shield obstructs vision, but finally he spots his chance when Rose attacks again. Barl barely dodges, leaving her wide open, and this time, he doesn't hesitate. The slash cuts across her chest, blood gushing onto the ground. Rose realizes she's gonna die. Here she knew Barl was strong, but never expected a move like that. Barl admits he improvised and it wouldn't work twice. That's why it had to be one decisive strike. She begs him to finish it if she's dying. Let it be by her master's hand. But Barl refuses. He wants her alive to face her sins. Besides, part of this is his fault. He failed as her teacher. Enter Gatoga. He freezes, seeing Rose near death, and immediately starts healing her with magic. Barl asks about the archers, and Gatoga explains he handled them all but saw Rose heading into the woods alone. He stops the bleeding but demands to know what happened. Barl owns up. I'm the one who cut her. Gatoga can barely believe it, but Barl explains Rose was part of the assassination plot and drops the bomb. Not all her fault though. The Pope kidnapped orphanage kids to force her. Gatoga's horrified. If even the Pope's assassins die for their cause, of course they wouldn't care about children. He proposes rescuing them, but first makes a request. Let's say Hinnis did this, and Rose got hurt fighting him. Rose laughs, lying for Mel Screw. You over, but Gatoga warns if the truth gets out, she gets the death penalty. And he won't let that happen. Barl's confused. Why does Gatoga care so much? If caught, he'd be screwed too. Gatoga drops the bomb. Rose is my sister. Half-sister, technically not blood-related, but they grew up together since childhood. That's why he'll do anything to keep her alive. Barl's stunned, but promises not to rat Rose out. Just curious, he asks. You siding with the Pope or the Prince? Gatoga says as Knight Commander, he must stay neutral politically, but deep down, he supports Glenn. Rose claims she doesn't trust the royals. The Pope told her they falsely accused Bishop Revius of crimes. Barl cuts in. Revius is 100% guilty. He personally arrested the guy and saw everything Revius used corpses to attempt a forbidden resurrection miracle. Rose freezes. If the Pope lied about that, did he lie about saving the kids too? Barl's never met the Pope, but suggests she rethink trusting him. It hits Rose hard. Everything she did was pointless. But now determined, she says, I can't die until I fix my mistakes. Still badly wounded, Gatoga carries her. Barl says, take care of her. Gatoga promises but warns this is crazy risky. So Barl better keep this all secret. Meanwhile, Alucia Karuni and Hemblitz took down the assassins. But there might still be more lurking. Alucia wants to go after Barl, but he shows up out of nowhere. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. He explains he went with Rose into the woods to thin out the assassins, but she got hurt and Gatoga took her to a medic. Doubt we'll get more attacks now. Alucia then rounds up fresh horses for a quick return trip. On the way back, she updates Barl. The farm district tour's cancelled, and with barely any casualties, the royal family's rep is safe. Just have to compensate farmers for wrecked fields. Then a knight shows up with a royal invite for Alucia, a state banquet for her exceptional service. Barl's happy for her, until he spots his own name on it. Guess I'm going. He sighs. Zero enthusiasm. Banquet day rolls around, and Barl's stuck wondering how he ended up here seated at a table with the kingdom's big shots. He's amazed Alucia's so chill, but hey, as guard captain, she's probably used to this. Enter King Gladio and Princess Salakia. Once seated, the king thanks Alucia for everything she's done for his daughter. Barl's impressed how casually she talks to royalty. The king's also heard Barl played a key role against the assassins, and Salakia starts gushing about how he slashed through everyone like a beast. Barl thinks he barely did anything, but the king insists on thanking him. Then King drops news. It's not public yet, but Salakia's marrying Glenn soon. She's heading to Esfine for the ceremony. But the king's worried the country's a political mess, and he wants a royal guard just for her. And guess what? He's eyeing Barl to lead it. Barl wants no part of this, but how do you say no to a king? He's speechless. Luckily, Alucia jumps in. Barl's essential to our knight order here. We can't lose him. The king backs off on the royal guard idea but leaves Barl with one last thing. I hear you're a swordmaster. Hope you live up to the title and keep protecting the kingdom. Barl short circuits, swordmaster. Probably Alusha's doing, but now he can't deny it. He thinks the title's overkill. He's never even beaten his old man in a duel. Post-banquet. Barl heads home and shows Miwi his palace gift, a stupidly fancy glass plate. Too delicate to use, too nice to stash away. What's the move here? Back in Barl's hometown, his dad gets the same plate mailed by his son. The note reads, "Got this at a royal banquet, but it's too fancy for me. You keep it, old man." He also mentions the swordmaster title, but says he doesn't deserve it yet. Barl's dad sighs. Wish he'd see his own talent. But deep down, he knows his son downplays himself because he's still growing, and he can't wait to see just how far Barl's skills will take him. So Rose was just being used, not truly evil. Liked the story. Want season 2 when it drops, already confirmed. Smash that like button and spam comments. Subscribe to support the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss a thing, and check the description cards for more questionable, or maybe not, recaps. Thanks for the constant support, and peace out.